Hello, everyone, and welcome to the SourceForge Podcast. Thank you for joining us today. I'm your host, Bo Hamilton, Senior Editor and Multimedia Producer here at SourceForge, the world's most visited software comparison site where B2B software buyers compare and find business software solutions. Today, we're talking with David Matalon, founder and CEO of Venn Software, the first purpose-built software for securely enabling BYOD workforces. And BYOD, for those listening, it stands for Bring Your Own Device, and it's a common workplace policy in the remote world we live in that allows employees to use their own devices for work-related tasks. So to talk more about that and more about Venn, let me introduce David Matalon. David, welcome to the podcast. Glad you could join us.
Thank you. Thank you, Bo. Pleasure to be here.
Can you give us a quick overview of Venn and what it is that your company offers?
Of course. So Venn is revolutionizing how businesses enable BYOD workforces. We are removing the burden of having to buy and secure laptops or deal with virtual desktop infrastructure. We do this with our patented Blue Border, which sets up a secure enclave on a user's PC or Mac, and it's within that secure enclave with a blue border around those windows that work is going to be isolated and protected from anything else on the same machine. So Venn essentially is a new approach to securing a remote employee or contractor working on an unmanaged computer.
That's great. I definitely am going to have a bunch of questions to ask you about Blue Border and your product. But first, I want to talk about the industry at large and BYOD in general. What are some current trends driving the BYOD workforce?
Sure, you're seeing a lot more BYOD workforces out there. And the reason why is a few key trends that are really increasing. Number one, workforces are becoming way more geographically dispersed than they were. And this started happening before COVID, but COVID really accelerated it. Whereas an organization used to have their workers maybe around, a city or a headquarters or a main office, today most organizations are substantially more distributed, more dispersed than they were before. And again, post-COVID, this has really been rapid. Also, number two, the nature of the workforce, just the composition of it itself, has changed. You have more independent contractors, more offshore workers, more temporary and gig positions. You have the gig economy that's emerging. So all of this is kind of changing and impacting the type of workers that organizations have to support. And third, just the line between business and personal and the way we work and live today is blurring, especially with the younger generation. Expecting a remote worker to work on a company, managed lockdown computer and then switch to a personal for non-work, that used to be more realistic than it is today. Again, the work-life separation is changing. So as these trends really continue to intensify, you will see more BYOD workforces. You already are. And you will see organizations really opting not to issue hardware, not to be in that end user computer hardware business for some or all of their users.
Now, do you see the trend of remote work slowing down at all? Because it seems like we're seeing sort of a shift back to the office, especially amongst large Fortune 500 companies. Dell and Amazon come to mind, but there's a handful of them that are really requiring workers to come back to the office. And this gets all the media attention, so it could simply be that. But is this a trend you're noticing too? And if so, do you think it'll continue, or is it just a sort of a reaction to maybe some economic conditions or other macro trends?
I think it's a small pullback, but part of a larger trajectory that isn't changing. Remote work isn't going anywhere. I think the reality for most organizations will be some form of hybrid. You'll have many remote only, you'll have some in the office, many hybrid. So yeah, I think we're hearing about kind of a pullback right now, but the bigger story over a longer period of time definitely supports the remote work trend.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. I think, just with that, after the COVID pandemic, there's no question it accelerated our adoption of technology and cloud infrastructure and just working remotely. Regarding the three trends you mentioned, what solutions have historically been used to address them, and why did you feel like the market needed a solution with a different approach?
Well, so if you're a security conscious firm, if you are compliance driven, like a financial services or healthcare or similar type industry, you have to protect your data. And the way it was done in the past for kind of a BYOD workforce or an unmanaged computer probably was a Citrix style VDI virtual desktop type solution. That's really been the de facto norm for this type of use case. The only other way to do it in the past was to buy and ship and secure and lock down that laptop. And then, when that person left, you would kind of collect that laptop and kind of give it to the next person. And that's kind of what we refer to as kind of being in the hardware business for your employees. So, look, both of those models are expensive, and they come with complications and logistics, and that's exactly the opportunity that we saw in developing the Blue Border and really giving companies a really new way to solve a problem that they've had for a while.
So you have a lot of experience in the field. You led OS 33, which I'm saying that correctly. It's a secure workspace solution for security and compliance driven industries for almost 10 years. It looks like you started your first business at 13, acting as a like a young consultant to teach the older generation how to use Microsoft Word and Intuit. I love that. And then I've also read that you've launched a cloud computing company after graduating from NYU at the turn of the century. How has all this experience that you've acquired influenced the design of Venn's technology?
Yeah, so I'm old. I've been at this for a while. So, but I would say most recently at OS 33, um, we were focused on financial firms mainly. And again, these were firms that had to protect their data. They had strict data security requirements governed by the SEC or FINRA. And so we provided a secure workspace solution that was turnkey ready to accommodate those regulations, that provided the right way of login, the right way of data control, had all of the compliance checks, had the right data loss prevention kind of policies being enforced. So we really understood the challenges for companies needing to protect their data, and we saw how costly and expensive it was. Again, to be in that hardware business, lock down those machines, apply that security policy, or you're in the Citrix and VDI kind of infrastructure business, again, very complex, very operationally heavy, and also not the best user experience. I mean, we had thousands of users, and we would hear what they had to say about how they were working, and so and especially when COVID hit and people started working out of their home offices a lot more, we saw the kind of the future and recognized what was wrong with the way companies were doing it then.
Gotcha. Now, along the same lines, how is Venn helping IT sort of rethink the approach to BYOD programs?
I mean, this is exactly what our focus is today. Helping them really rethink those BYOD programs. And again, it has to be secure. If you're allowing a BYOD program, you're allowing people to show up to work and work on any machine they want without controlling company data. That doesn't work for our customers. So for our customers, if they have an existing secure BYOD program, it's likely going to be Citrix or some type of virtual desktop type solution, and we are providing a much better way. Really eliminating the challenges with that mode of computing. And we can kind of dive into that if you like, but the whole remotely hosted kind of sending your keystrokes and monitor movements back and forth, that whole hosted way of working with applications comes with user inconvenience and issues like latency. And again, it's very costly. If companies do not have a secure BYOD program in place, then what they're doing is enforcing the fact that every worker, wherever they are, have to be on a company-issued lockdown computer. If you are an organization that has to deal with HIPAA regulations or SEC FINRA, that's exactly your reality. So we are offering these organizations either a new approach entirely, where they don't have to issue those machines, and with Venn they can simply install Venn and have these folks work and be secure and be compliant. Or if they have an existing program using Citrix or VDI, this is truly a much simpler, more cost-effective way to do it.
Well, it's kind of in response to that first point you mentioned, there's always like that guy in the office with like the controversial takes or the kind of the conflicting messaging, and there's always the IT guy that says BYOD can never be secure. What do you say to that person?
We love dispelling that myth that BYO can never be secure. So look, I mean, I probably would have agreed with that statement before we built Blue Border. But Blue Border was built exactly for this use case, exactly to isolate and protect work from the rest of the machine, exactly to give organizations the control they need, but without having to control and own the entire machine. That's exactly what we did with the technology.
Well, what about like the end user then? How, um, the the end user who thinks about like, oh, this company wants to install software on my computer, and obviously that's a little bit maybe worrisome, give some people some anxiety. What do you say to the end user who's concerned about that?
Yeah, I mean, because we designed Blue Border for the BYOD use case, we designed it with privacy, built in from day one. I mean, it was exactly meant to address that. You can't really make users comfortable working on a machine that they own without respecting their privacy. So we did exactly that. The software is built to respect personal privacy, to control and monitor data within the secure enclave, but absolutely provide personal privacy. Venn ensures that nothing outside that blue border that one sees very obviously, very visually, nothing outside of that blue border is going to be monitored or controlled by the company. I use Venn every day on my personal laptop. Everyone at Venn uses their personal laptop, installs Venn, has their privacy, and we of course control our data. It is our brand promise. Privacy is absolutely non-negotiable with Venn.
That's definitely reassuring. How now I want to kind of expand upon that and kind of get a little bit more technical and talk about some of the technology at play with your software. How does Venn secure remote work without the need for like say virtual desktops?
Virtual desktop is an entirely different technology where the software that I'm using for work is happening remotely in a data center somewhere else. What's happening with Venn is a secure enclave is being set up on that machine. And it's within that secure enclave, visually cued by the blue border around those specific application windows, but the applications and the software are running entirely locally. I'm using my Safari browser on my Mac. I'm using local Outlook or local Word or Excel on my machine. Those applications are running entirely locally, natively, the exact same way I would work otherwise. The only difference is there's a blue border around those windows that indicate this is work, this is controlled, this data is governed and protected, versus the other applications don't have the blue border, are mine, have nothing to do with work whatsoever. So that's very different than VDI, which is going to present you with a kind of a virtual Windows desktop environment somewhere else, and I'm sending keystrokes and latency, and I can't do a video call, and I have to kind of worry about what's on the hosted and what's on the local. Very, very different way of solving the problem.
Yeah, that's a good differentiation there because it makes me think of maybe AI and how most of the data is being sent out to servers around the world. But you're starting to see a few companies offer hardware products where it's baked in locally. All the data is being processed on the device, which uses up more processing power, but is certainly more secure.
It's going to be more secure, and it's also going to give the user a better experience. The hosted experience has been compromised, right, by latency, by video calls. It's not the best way to work. I mean, people want to use local native applications on their machines. They don't want to run software that's being remotely hosted somewhere else. So, yeah, I mean, for privacy, security, but probably most, it's just convenient and the way people want to work.
That makes sense. Yeah, I think that'll probably just increase as we have more capable processing power and compute power. Um, yeah. I guess I want to pivot to talking about some of the cybersecurity policies and the need to constantly stay ahead of the curve, right? So I'm curious, how has Venn adapted to include the latest security trends? The one that comes to mind is zero trust, but I'm sure there's a bunch of others you're thinking of and staying aware of.
Venn is going to complement kind of a zero trust strategy, which a lot of companies are talking about today. We fit right into that. In fact, Venn's network solution kind of is similar to a split tunnel VPN, but it's a zero trust network access solution for a BYOD or unmanaged computer. It's going to split the traffic essentially between the traffic that's within the blue border that's work related is going to go out secure and encrypted through a tunnel, zero trust network access, type of solution. Whereas the rest of the network traffic, personal, having nothing to do with work, is just going to go out my regular internet connection. So companies will use Venn specifically for the BYOD workforce component of their larger zero trust architecture. And we fit right in.
Okay, so speaking of the clients, and we talked about the IT guy and the end user. How do you listen to and incorporate all the feedback that they have? Because I'm sure that there's always things that you're implementing and improving upon, and it's probably a never-ending list. But how do you kind of aggregate all of that and keep things prioritized where they should be?
Yeah. So look, we're in constant contact with our customers. We're exploring, new use cases. We get lots of feedback, and we're early days with the Blue Border and with this product. And we're super grateful for our customers' engagement, their excitement, and the input that they have. Many times we'll make an improvement for one that benefits all, especially with security and compliance, which is always kind of top of mind for our customers. Our product roadmap is updated quarterly and very much influenced by our customers' requirements and the input that they give us.
Oh, that's great. Is there a particular channel that's best for clients to voice their feedback?
Yeah, our clients are in contact with their customer success manager, and those conversations are happening regularly. And typically, roadmap and product enhancements and feature requests will come in through customer success for our product team, and again, regularly prioritize and part of those roadmap updates.
Okay. That's great. Yeah, it's customer service is pivotal for any company. I feel like especially for a security software product that has so many different responsibilities. Um, and it's neat that you mentioned the quarterly feature release cycle. What are some of the most exciting enhancement Venn has implemented recently, and looking forward, what are some exciting enhancements coming down the pipeline?
So Blue Border is more than just security. Of course, security compliance is essential for that BYOD workforce type user. But when you talk about enabling BYOD workforce, there's more than just data protection. For example, oftentimes our customers will have a certain application that the user needs to use. And maybe on their own machine, they've joined the company, they install Venn, and now they want to get to work. And maybe there's an application that needs to be installed on that computer for work. So we recently released features that help the distribution of that software. So when you install Venn, it sets up that secure enclave, and it will check your machine to see if you have the necessary applications for work. And if you don't, you'll click a button, and with your okay and your consent, Venn will help you install that work application on your machine. Again, for exclusive use inside of that secure enclave. So that's a pretty exciting new feature that we released, but that was directly from customers asking for it, just kind of given their requirements in the field.
Oh, cool. Yeah. So it's like they're being heard. You see them, they're being heard. That's great. What are some of the you know integrations you guys are offering? Because I'm sure that you're constantly integrating your software with other systems and tools out there. Can you sort of talk more about those integrations that Venn offers?
Yeah, I mean, we have to offer those integrations. Essential where Venn plays, we have to work with lots of different applications. I mean, every customer is going to have their individual work applications, their individual file systems, the tools they use to do business. And Venn will plug right into those. Our customers are going to have, again, their existing applications, and they're going to have their existing IT infrastructure that we have to plug into as well. So think of like your IDP, your identity provider, Okta, Google, Azure Active Directory, et cetera. We need to plug right in so that when you log into Venn, that's integrated. File systems, right? Some companies will use OneDrive, others will use Google Drive, maybe Ignite or Box, right? We will plug in and integrate it, with those file systems as well. And VPNs, the network infrastructure, very common for us to integrate with existing WAN infrastructure or SASE. Again, we have that built-in gateway that I spoke about before, where you have network traffic that's work-related, that's going out a secure tunnel through a gateway. But a lot of our customers will want that traffic routed through their SASE or their existing network infrastructure, and we integrate with that as well. So very common, very part of pretty much every customer deployment is going to be integrating with their individual applications and existing infrastructure.
Okay, yeah, that's great. I feel like it's more common too with a BYOD device. You have your constantly different products and software that you want to integrate with, as opposed to something that's offered from a employer, maybe at an office or on premises. So I want to kind of circle back around and ask one more question about remote work, kind of make this full circle, and perhaps you can rehash some of the points you mentioned earlier. How does Venn help organizations grow and scale as their remote work needs evolve?
I mean, I think that's what it's about for so many organizations. It is about helping them grow and scale. And that remote workforce is a great facilitator, an enabler of growth for so many companies. And so Venn really makes it easy for them to scale. They don't have to buy and ship laptops for every new employee or contractor that's going to start at the firm. They're not having to expand and pay for massive virtual desktop infrastructure in a data center and support users working that way in that remote fashion. You literally can onboard a new worker in minutes. They install Venn on their machine. They get to work inside the blue border. That's really it. So again, contractors, workers, wherever they are, domestic, offshore, can be onboarded in minutes, offboarded just as easily. And this is a great facilitator for growth. I mean, you have organizations, we have customers in the BPO industry, business process outsourcing, or staffing firms. Their entire business is scaling up and down in terms of their workforce and bringing people on. Think of organizations that have seasonality, where they really have to onboard lots of people critical for their business operations, and then maybe offboard them. So really, Venn is a great enabler for companies that really want to grow and expand, because it is so easy to do exactly that. And security and compliance is going to be built in and taken care of. And again, for our customers that are almost always security conscious, compliance driven, I mean, that's absolutely essential.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think that'll resonate well with any admin from organizations listening to this, who maybe haven't transitioned to the or fully adopted the BYOD kind of market industry. So now we're coming down to the last couple of questions I have for you. So I want to ask you sort of a fun question that would be great to share as a separate clip on social media, maybe without all the context from the previous questions. So my question is, all leaders, they want to have the opportunity to tell potential customers one big thing, kind of like shouting it from the rooftop, or if prospects only knew this, what would your one big piece of advice be for customers?
I think IT departments should really think about getting out of the hardware business where they can. I think companies really should recognize that owning, managing, and locking down laptops is costly, it's slow, it's a time consuming headache that just doesn't facilitate growth. Why are we still doing this for thousands and of employees or hundreds of thousands at really large organizations? So then is really a paradigm shift in how organizations can secure their data without having to be in that computer hardware business. And I think that it's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen for everyone. But IT departments should think about where they can to get out of that hardware business. I believe that we will see a new norm in the future, and that needing a company issued lockdown computer will be the exception. That won't be the norm for everyone. Very few companies are still buying their people a mobile phone, even though people work on mobile phones all day. With Venn, your company's data can be secure, your compliance requirements can be taken care of, and your people can have more freedom and flexibility. They can work better and they can be happier in both work and life. And it's a much simpler solution for companies.
I love that. Yeah, I love needing a company computer will be the exception, not the norm. Now, for those interested in Venn software and for those who want to connect with you, where should you send them?
Yeah, come see us, come visit us, come see a product demo or a test drive. Visit us online. We have a great resource center at venn.com with lots of great information. Get in touch with our team. We would love to meet you.
Awesome. Venn.com. All right. Well, those are all the questions I have for you. I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to sit and talk with us about Venn. Thanks again, David.
Thank you. Thank you, Bo. Appreciate it.
Thank you all for listening to the SourceForge podcast. I'm your host, Bo Hamilton. Make sure to subscribe to stay up to date with all of our upcoming B2B software related podcasts. I'll talk to you in the next one.